You're listening to Happy Healthy Hormones with Dr. Chris. Are you tired of the short-term patch to your health problems? Is avoiding medications and surgeries important to you? If you answered yes, then your prayers have been answered. Dr. Chris has been helping people transform their health for over a decade. He's a world-renowned health expert who specializes in holistic health. He's a professional speaker, chiropractor, and international best-selling author. It's his mission to help you reach your full God-given potential through holistic health and healing. Get ready to be inspired and transformed. Here's your host, Dr. Chris.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the show where disease takes a dive and people come to thrive. We are talking today about what it really takes to have a quality of life. You know, I'm titling this, How to Live to 100. But a lot of times when you think about living to the ripe old age of 100 years old in our culture, in our society, in America, and across many industrialized countries, it's like, wow, do I really want to live to be that old? Because things pop into your head. You think about having to be in a nursing home or having to wear diapers, having people have to take care of you, not having any independence in your life, and having to take more time in the morning to count and take all your pills, and you actually get to spend enjoying your breakfast. And so I get it. I understand if you're afraid of the dementia, the Alzheimer's, and just the poor quality of life you see so many Americans living today, and so many people not living the golden life in their later years, but just living a life of scarcity, of fear, of just not living up to their fullest potential, not living up to what they had dreamed about working so hard their whole life for, saving all this money, skimping on their health over the years just to get to a place in their life where now they're having to spend all that money just trying to get back their health. And it's so much easier to try to prevent a disease than it ever would be trying to overcome one. And so I get it. I understand why you might not want to live to be 100, because there are a lot worse things than dying. It's called being medicated and being in a nursing home. So when we look at it, what does it really take to live, to have a long quality of life with a high quality of life as well? So when you look at it, you look at countries across the world and different pockets of cultures. You've maybe heard of like the blue zones, and these are pockets of different cultures around the world that have a lot of the same principles in common, that live into their hundreds and have a high quality of life. They don't have the rates of cancer or heart disease or poor eyesight or a lack of mobility or Alzheimer's or these degenerative diseases. And actually, these people get better. Life gets better as they get older. It doesn't get worse. And so we want to discuss what are those common characteristics that these places have, because they are separated by thousands of miles by different oceans. Top part of the globe, the bottom part, the west, the east, it doesn't matter. There are these subcultures. It doesn't have anything to do with their genetics, really. I mean, it has everything to do with how they're living their life. Because when we look at the human genome, we are the same, right? There might be tiny, minute little things that are different in a subculture, but oh man, it's not going to be the difference between whether someone lives to 100 with a quality of life or whether someone only lives to 75 and dies of a long, painful death of cancer. And so let's look at what those principles are. And it really boils down to the 5 foundations of health, right? I've talked about the 5 foundations before in the book that I've written, The 5 Foundations of Remarkably Healthy People. But when you really break it down, you look at these cultures, one of the main things they have in common is they have the function aspect of that figured out. So there's function, food, fitness, filter, and freedom, right? But they got the function, the food, the fitness, the filter, the freedom. They got these things all figured out. They're not trying to do these things. It's just part of their life. It's part of their existence. It's not just something they do for a short-term period of time. They're really intense in one of these areas for just a couple of days of their lives or a couple of days of the month. No, these are things that they are consistent with. And that's the difference between those that have great results in their life in any aspect of their life, whether it be their health, whether it be their finances, their relationships, is they just don't dabble. They just don't try things for a little bit and use that little bit of work to give them long-lasting changes. No, it's about putting the work in on a daily basis. It's just like if you want to have a great relationship, the great relationship, the love that blossomed didn't come from just taking someone out on Valentine's Day once a year or giving them some flowers once in a while. No, it came from the little acts of kindness on a daily basis. It was, filling the coffee pot, even though, you didn't want any more coffee, but the person is waking up that you care about and you want them to have that cup of coffee. It's about, doing the little things, giving people the hugs every day and tell them that you love them. It's the little things like random acts of kindness on a daily basis that eventually creates this feelings that person, they have this realization, I love this person. And it wasn't because of just a single act that you did for them. And it's not going to continue in that area of love and abundance in their life if you just get to that point and then just say, hey, you know what? Well, hey, I've gotten to this goal. This person loves me. I'm here where I'm at with my health. And then to not continue to do those consistent habits that got you there, you'll lose all of it, right? You'll lose your health. You'll lose that relationship. And so it's something we got to work on consistently. And so a lot of these cultures, that's what they do. If you want to live to be 100, if you want to live, even if, hey, it doesn't matter if you live to 100 or you live to only 50 years old, it's about having the fullest quality of life during that time. And so if you want to have the highest quality of life during the time that you've got on this great earth, well, then you've got to be consistent and you've got to put in the work, but you've got to put in the principles too. So one of those things is function. So what is function? That's basing it around the nervous system. Is your nervous system able to adapt physically, chemically, and emotionally to these different types of stress? And you know what? If you have that area figured out, that is like the foundation to your health. It's not like the foundation, it's the foundation to your health. Every single signal of healing, repair, all comes down through your brain, down through your spinal cord, out to every nerve, every organ, every tissue in your body. So, your body can only function and heal and repair at its best when that nervous system has no interference to it. And so that really plays into the other 5 foundations, which if those other 4 foundations are off, which is the food, fitness, filter, and freedom, then it's going to create a stress that your body is not going to be able to handle because it's going to be consistently putting stressors in your body, and eventually your body is going to break down. Right? We can only put so much stress in ourselves and our lives, physically, chemically, and emotionally before our body just can't take it anymore. And then we finally start to have the symptoms, right? When we have the symptoms, it's our hormones being off, it's the energy levels crashing, it's the pain, it's the chronic issues in our lives that wreak havoc. Now, the other thing that we really got to look at too is looking at the food aspect of things. So these cultures, they are eating organic foods. They are eating whole food sources. They're not eating a bunch of carbs. They're not eating a bunch of processed foods. They are eating clean, God-given foods that have been around since the beginning of time. And so when they stick to these principles, they are eating minimal amounts. They're not eating an abundance of gluttony like we have in many industrialized countries. And that is probably one of the easiest things that you can do in your own life that you can control is what you're putting in your body. Now, you maybe can't control what you're getting exposed to all the time, and that comes into filter and toxicity, but this is one thing that you can definitely control, and it's something that, these countries are eating lots of good, healthy fats. They have a huge abundance of veggies and just lots of greens in their life as well. Their meats are very organic and pure. They're not really eating a lot of meat at all. A lot of these countries eat very minimalistic amounts of meat. Not saying you have to be a vegetarian or a vegan, but, because I'm definitely not, so I would never ask you to do anything that I don't do myself. But the fact is like it's not a huge part of their life as well. And then we look at also food, but we look at fitness. So these cultures, they don't have the Gold's Gym or the 24-hour fitness on every corner like we do in a lot of industrialized countries. No, they get their fitness through their daily habits. A lot of these countries are in or a lot of these cultures, I should say, are in either high elevations where they're having to run up and down hills all the time. They're around the oceans where they're doing a lot of swimming and they're going through sand and they're going through hills and everything else. But the point is, you don't have to live by the ocean. You don't have to live in a mountain. They are just in very consistent in their activity levels. It's not just going out once in a while to do some gardening for the day and then they're done. No, they're consistently working. They're getting their cardiovascular health where it needs to be because they are consistently pushing their physical limits to the test, and that's what's keeping their body strong. And so that's really important, is keeping that activity levels, especially, when we get in the colder months and things. It's really easy to just say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to wait till it warms up before I get my workout back on. And that's that's sad because, in the end of the day, you're going to lose all the gains you had. And over time, it gets harder and harder to get those things back as well. And then we also look at a really important one too, which is filter. So this is toxicity, right? And these cultures don't have the high exposure to toxins like we do. They're definitely not getting it from the foods like we talked about. They're not getting it from the personal products. They don't have exposure to those things. A lot of these cultures don't have a lot of access to those things. And so they're just not getting bombarded by all the chemicals, parabens, you name it, that a lot of us in the industrialized and the cities are really regularly getting exposed to as well. So the more you can keep toxicity out of your life, it's just going to create abundance in your life because it just weakens your cells. And once your cells start to get weak, well, then that's really the breakdown of the whole body. And so you can't get well until you fix the cell. And that all comes from toxicity, which is one of the most overlooked things, especially in our cultures today. And then we look at the last one, which is freedom. And freedom is, freedom in their finances, relationships, spiritual life. These folks have a connection to God. No matter what God it is you believe in or wherever you're at with that, they have a strong spiritual life. They don't get stressed about things. They look at a way to find good in things. They have a community presence around them. So it's not just them on their own trying to do everything. They have that support group around them to help guide them and help support them. And, they're about giving back. They're very giving people, and that's what helps fill your heart. And that's why there's so many studies out there that show that people that, have companions, have that community aspect in their lives, just live longer. They have significantly less rates of heart disease and cancer. And that's in these countries, those things are in these cultures, they are virtually non-existent, these chronic diseases. You just don't see them. And so when we look at these things, we look at all these 5 foundations. It's not about being perfect. Because these people in these blue zones and these areas where they're living to 100 with a high quality life, they're not perfect. They're human just like you and me. But their cultures over time have developed these success principles in their health, in their lives, in their communities that have created the long-lasting changes and have literally transformed generations and generations to come by the consistency that they put in these habits. And I know you can do it too because consistency is the toughest thing. It's easy to be intense about something for a short period of time. You can go work out for 9-10 hours in a day if you wanted to, if you really put your mind to it. But at the end of the day, you're not going to have changed your body. But if you just work out for 20 minutes a day, well, you're going to make some drastic changes. You're going to be in the best shape of your life. So just remember, it's about working those muscles physically, but also mentally as well. So hopefully you can go out today, you can start to change one aspect of your life that you can be more consistent in and start pushing that forward and make some great changes in the new year and the new day to come. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please help more people in reaching their fullest potential and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. For show notes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to newedgewellness.com.